So I wasn't planning to do this, but I want to give an example of we all start somewhere in our career, and we all come into the business with a certain awareness level. And if we're lucky, we're surrounded by the right people and the right conditions and the right opportunities, and we blossom and we can play and experiment and grow. And Agora is a fantastic place to do that, perhaps the best place to do that for a copywriter or a marketer. But along the way, you also learn what not to do. And I made some mistakes. Caleb, you mentioned, you look back on some earlier copy and you may cringe and think, oh man, did I write that? I did. It's right there. It's in writing. And so part of my evolution in education as a copywriter is just understanding right from wrong and evolving a sense of not just what sells, but what's the right thing to do, what's the ethical thing to do, what's the sustainable thing to do. And I'll remember that there's one story I remember is from my evolution as a copywriter. I call it the 10-second doctorate, and here's what happened. So it's customary to change customers' names, of course, to protect their identity, and to rephrase or restate testimonials for clarity, but adhere to the exact meaning behind the story that was told. But we did this as a method of practice, and I took great pleasure when I started out as a copywriter picking out names and towns these people may have come from and made them seem much more real than John D. from nowhere. And so my creativity kind of just perked up one day, and we were changing the name of this one guy to protect his identity, and I reached out to our legal department and I said, can I make him a doctor? And I waited a few minutes, and they wrote back and they said, yeah, sure, make him a doctor. He's because the other guys we had changed to garbage men or to English professors or architects or retired plumbers, and it didn't seem to matter. So they said, it's not material. You're not selling a health product. It doesn't quite matter. So we did. This so-and-so became a doctor, and the testimonial went live, and that's what went out there in the world. And at the time, I thought it was kind of neat to have that kind of freedom to create. But as I look back and I evolved, and that was over 10 or 11 years ago, and I look back, I thought, well, that's not right. Because calling somebody a doctor who's not a doctor bestows a kind of a status upon that person that they may not have deserved. Just the same way that calling them a garbage man makes it seem like, well, this guy's just an idiot. Anybody could achieve this result, and you can too, right? Even if the result may be impossibly difficult to achieve. So part of my evolution as a copywriter has been looking back on those early days and just being revolted at my own mess that I created. But what I'm concerned about, what's going on in the industry, is that certain people, and I'm not going to name any names tonight, but there's a mess that's been created, and now the dues are the bill is coming due, in a very real sense for many different companies and many different divisions of Agora, and it's a big ass problem, and nobody's talking about it as a group for whatever reason. But as Brian mentioned, I'm the Fearless Copywriting Group, so true to character, here I am. And I want to address it in public because I think it matters. I think we need to start a dialogue. We need to look deeply at what we're doing that's right, what we're doing that's wrong, what we could do better. And if it hurts a little bit, so be it. But let's stare into the abyss. Just a disclaimer, this is my opinion only. I'm flying solo. Nobody else has told me to say this. Nobody else probably agrees with me. I may get fired. I don't care. All right, so it's more of a warning. It's more of a warning, but also a message of hope that I want to share with you today. But just to give you an idea of what's happened and the reason why I've chosen this topic, this is sort of what it feels like. Can you imagine, like you're going about your normal business, you're on a family trip, you're going to work, you're commuting, and you hop off on the side streets onto the freeway, and all of a sudden there's a police barricade, and there's a guy with a gun pointed at you. He says, "Stop!" And you're like, "What did I do? I don't know what I did." And he's like, "Pull over," and he won't tell you exactly what you did. And meanwhile, all the other cars are getting on the freeway, and all he'll tell you is that we don't like you. You're not welcome here anymore. You can't take this road. I'm like, what do you mean? I've got to get to work. Well, no, the freeway is off limits to you. You cannot take this road anymore. Well, meanwhile, what's the other solution? It's the back roads. It's the country winding road through the river, over the hill, through the woods, past Grandma's house. That's going to take you like 3 hours instead of 30 minutes. That's sort of what it feels like to be banned by Google and Facebook. As a marketer, it sucks. And that's reality. That's reality at Stansbury. That's reality at much across Agora. And it's not all our fault, but I do see certain themes and things that we've done wrong. So Google is banned. Agora is pretty much banned across Agora, but that may be opened up again at some point. But Google has also done us the additional honor of reaching into our customers' email boxes and pulling out our emails and sifting them into nice, fancy, deep-seated pockets and folders where nobody will ever find them again, which is really wonderful. It's not. So, and Facebook, which is the greatest source of traffic ever conceived in human history, has permanently banned us. So, which is a big problem. And I want to bring this to your attention. They're using these kind of phrases. We do not support your business model. Scary shit. You're financially endangering our readers. And you're offering restricted contents, products, or services. Now you know Stansberry is an upstanding company, probably one of the more conservatively run Agora divisions, and has consistently applied very difficult standards to ourselves over the past several years. We've worked really hard to do things right, and yet this is the result. So this is a big problem, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it tonight to give you an advance warning, just in case it could affect you, and also a vision of what might help you avoid this fate. So here's the problem. There's still a great level of denial within the business. This is what I overheard on a central conference call with a whole bunch of marketing people. One of the guys running the call said, as in reacting to the actions of Facebook and Google, it's like they're asking us to play whack-a-mole. And I thought about it. I got off the call and I thought, well, that doesn't really make any sense. Like they're asking us to play whack-a-mole. And I thought a minute, well, wait a sec. Well, who's the freaking mole? It's us. We get to be the mole. How wonderful. And Facebook is playing whack-a-mole with us. Well, by whack-a-mole, the marketing director was talking about, they're basically asking us to take black hat or gray hat methods to set up accounts using all kinds of assumed identities to try to get around their policy and to find ways to keep our ads on Facebook, even though Facebook clearly does not want our ads there. So, which is not a viable strategy. When you're going up against the most powerful marketing company in the world, and Mark Zuckerberg, that's just stupid. So, and I don't want to be a mole. I don't want to live underground in the tunnels and have to hide and dig in the dirt and go blind from lack of sunlight. And it doesn't seem like a way to live or a way to run a business. So, where did this problem come from? I've been racking my brain thinking back. And I think it has something to do with how marketers in general tend to measure success. So we tend to measure success by very obvious and basic metrics: conversion rates, CPAs, net revenue, lifetime value, all these things, right? And in the world of direct mail, that's the way it was. You get a conversion rate, you come in at a certain CPA, you look for your revenue, it's how it works. Email was very similar to direct mail. And also at the same time, we knew that most people do not like advertising, obviously. They do not love long, rambling, 60-minute VSLs. But we didn't really necessarily as an industry care, because as long as we pulled a 1 or 2 or 3% response rate on the front end, that was fantastic. What about the other 97% of the people? Well, who cares, right? We're counting the money. But something changed, right? This was our attitude. All along, this was our attitude towards marketing. And marketing for a long time was one-to-one. It was unidirectional, right? We didn't get any feedback. And the customers were not talking to each other. But then something happened. So what happened? This is what I think happened. It's probably an oversimplification, but it rings true to me. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. In February 2016, Facebook introduced reactions. And what that did was allowed people to do much more than simply like a post or an ad. Okay, prior to this moment, all they could do was they could comment on it, but they weren't really encouraged to react to it emotionally. They could like it or not like it, or they could hide it. Well, now from like, we expanded to love, to laughter, to shock, to sorrow, to anger, and people did. People reacted to our ads. So now all of a sudden, it's not just about trying to get a 1 or 2 or 3% response rate. The measure of what a good advertisement changed, but the industry didn't realize it. And so how customers and non-customers react matters. And overhyped claims and broken promises, they would get called out in public. And these reactions were all measured by Facebook and Google and other ad platforms. And based on those measurements, they made very long-lasting and permanent decisions about whether to allow ads on the networks. It's a big deal. And it's really upsetting as a marketer, and it's not convenient. It's very painful financially, but I'm come forward because I think this is a truth that we need to face. It's a truth we need to face about what's happening. And this, again, you don't want to wake up in the morning and see this sort of thing in your mailbox. You don't want to hop on the phone and hear this from an ad representative. These are damning words from some of the most powerful advertising companies in the world, Google and Facebook, but that's what they said. And a lot of folks blame this dude. And it's easy, that's probably a natural first reaction if you're in denial, is to blame Mark Zuckerberg. But really all he's trying to do is build a cool place for people to go and interact and have a great user experience. And user experience, I mean, that word gets thrown around a lot. Some people say it in a meaningless sort of a way. They say, but he really means it, I believe, and he's trying to curate an experience for the users, and clearly he means it because he's taken decisive action based on ads that are not a pleasant experience for his readers. Some folks blame Trump. Maybe Trump had something to do with it. I don't know. A whole lot of stuff changed since he was elected. The whole mood of the country has changed. Some folks blame this dude. Some blame this guy. But whoever it is, I think that the core problem is that are we playing some sort of a game, attempting to trick folks into subscribing, or are we doing something? Can marketing be something more noble? Can marketing be something more relevant and personal and useful? And so I think part of the root of the problem is that not everybody, and not every company, and not every marketer, but in general, we traded persuasion for manipulation. At some point, we all just decided it's okay. If I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, and we just keep digging deeper and deeper. So just case in point, some common manipulations: false identity, and I'll explain these; faux scarcity, get rich quick, instant health. I'll go through them quickly. So you see this one a lot. Joe Johnson from Palo Alto is collecting an income of $18,325 a year, and you can too. And what they don't tell you is that he's an Apple insider. He works for the damn company. He has stock options. And if you want to collect the same income, pony up 1.4 mil, buddy. What does the average retired couple in the U.S. have? What, if they're lucky, $100,000 to $200,000? It's bullshit, right? Pure and simple bullshit. I'm calling it for what it is. And this is common. This is not rare. This is everywhere. Faux scarcity, right? You see this sort of thing. This is a marketing tactic, but it's a bunch of bullshit. You'll never see this offer again. Wait, one more time. This is it. Only 50 people today. You got to act by July 1st. And then suddenly the HTML changes, and then it's October, and then it's December. These things, of course, drive urgency and, of course, drive sales. They're effective. No question. But are they honest? Are they open? Do they lead to a user experience that the big ad networks are willing to accept? No. And even if you go on the Warrior Forum, this look at the balls. I mean, I personally think this group is crazy. If you're in it, I'm sorry, but they have a PowerPoint slide called "Fake Urgency Countdown Timer." Denial, 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 denial. But see what's going to happen. If this can happen to Stansberry at Agora, if this can happen to a company that's watching their butt like there's no tomorrow, it can happen to anybody. And you better look out because this is what the sort of thing they're cracking down on. It's not anything that's misleading or duplicitous, even if it's not harmful. See, it's not a measure of whether it hurts somebody or not. A fake countdown timer never killed somebody's grandma, but it's not honest, and it's a gimmicky, and it's not a good user experience, and it's the sort of thing it's going to get cracked down on. So get rich quick is another common, of course, a common tactic whenever you're selling, especially a financial product. Everybody knows that fear and greed are the most powerful motivators, and if you can appeal to somebody's greed and give them a pathway to achieve their dreams in a short period of time to make up for all the missed opportunities they've faced through life, of course they're going to be interested in that. But and it's interesting, despite the fact that Facebook and Google are clamping down and the world of marketing seems to be getting more transparent and buttoned down, what boggles my mind, and it's fascinating to me, is that the greatest scam artists in the world are doing fantastic. The Nigerian scammers are doing it incredibly well because they're not constrained by law or morality. Their government doesn't give a shit. And they're just making a ton of money. The Nigerian scammers, their entire business model is based on promising to give you $1 million in exchange for $1,000, right? There's inevitably some prince that needs to get this money out of the country, and he just needs somebody to help. It's a tragedy, and oh man, if you just give him your routing information, I'll make it happen, I swear to God. That's their entire business model. And guess what? It works great because everybody likes to risk a little to make a lot. That's catnip for a desperate person. And in recent Wired magazine, so this is called 419 fraud, they reported on the success of these scams. It just blew my mind that they're still so successful. If you go on YouTube, there's actually a video with 3.3 million views called Yahoos, which is the Nigerians, the way they refer to the people they like to tend to exploit the most. Yahoos refers to people with the Yahoo email address. I don't know, for whatever reason, they're mining gold on Yahoo, and wealthy older Americans are just forking their money back to Nigeria. And this whole video, it's like if Tai Lopez was Nigerian, and he's posing with his Hummers and bragging about all the money he's taken from folks on the internet. This is open on Yahoo in Nigeria. Nobody gives a crap, and they're very successful, and they're doing really well. So the big dangerous question that nobody in the business is willing to ask, but I'm going to ask it, is like from a regulatory or policy. Think of yourself not as a marketer just for a second, because sometimes we get trapped in our world, and it's a wonderful world we live in. I love what we do, but just think of it from a cold, distant, beady-eyed regulatory perspective. What is the difference between saying, give me $1,000 and I'll send you $1 million, and give me $1,000 and I'll show you how to make $1 million, just like Joe, Bob, Millie, and Sally over here? So there really isn't that much of a difference. There's a legal difference, but in the eyes of somebody who's determining a user experience and what's honest or not, there really isn't that much of a difference, especially if they don't know you or where you're coming from or what you're selling. And now on to instant health. So this is the problem with low sophistication and marketers in general who don't quite get the depth of what we're trying to do. All they do is they just one up 6-minute abs, 5-minute abs, 3-minute abs, 1-minute abs, instant abs! That's what they do. They're implementers. They don't think. You need implementers in your business because sometimes, to be honest, they're the only ones driving stuff forward. Implementers kick ass that way. But sometimes implementers don't think about the consequences of their actions. And you never see that more often than in the marketing world. And you know what? We never measured the cost of that. We never measured the cost. Back to the abs there, kind of. So then we never measured the cost of that because all we were measuring was the response rate. We weren't measuring the negative effect of our copy. And whoops. Well, guess what? All of a sudden that matters. Not everywhere necessarily, but in the big mega channels like Facebook, yep. Google, yep. And that's a problem. So one of my favorite authors, Simon Sinek, who wrote Start With Why, I want to read this off the screen because I think it's really important. Manipulations work. I'm not denying that either. They work fantastic. Every one of them can help influence behavior. Every one of them can help a company become quite successful, but there are trade-offs. Not a single one of them breeds loyalty, and over the course of time, they cost more and more. So to me, in my mind, if you're selling a one-off product, you're probably okay to do this, you manipulate away, but if you're trying to build a relationship, and a long-term relationship at that with the customer, it's the absolute worst thing you could possibly do. And unfortunately, we've reached peak bullshit in the marketing world today. We've reached peak bullshit. And it's the natural result of the exponential one-upmanship that occurs among marketers. And it's because that's the easy path. The path from 10 to 6 doesn't take any talent. It doesn't take any insight or special knowledge to go from 10 to 6 to 5 to 1-minute abs, right? But that's what they do. And that's what gets us in trouble. So that's what the result is. Banned. CPA through the freaking roof, right? That's how it works. That's the painful pill to swallow. So you can rely on manipulations to grow your business, but you're going to doom yourself to higher CPAs and push back from major ad networks. And instead of, really, this is the greater tragedy, instead of attracting the right people to your business who will know and love you and continue to buy from you, you're going to attract a legion of desperate pill poppers and life raft grabbers who are just lunging after any solution because they can't get after their own damn way, these people. You want to live with those people and serve them and try to make them happy? Good freaking luck, right? That's a tough road to hoe. So unfortunately, I don't know. It's hard for me to gauge necessarily in the room here, but I know among most of my fellow copywriters and marketers, they're in a firm state of denial. It's very, very difficult. And I apologize if I upset anybody, but not really because, hey, I want to. This is the truth, and I think the more people understand what's happening now, the better. The sooner we take action, the better, because there's nothing wrong with aggressively selling a product you believe in. That's the most wonderful thing in the world, and I love to do that. I live to do that every day. But it's just that certain tactics and certain strategies and certain people have gone too far, and there's a cost. There's a cost to bear for that. And I learned this lesson actually from one of the greatest criminals of all time. So Andy Fastow came to speak with us once at Stansbury, and at the time I was wondering, why on earth did Porter invite this guy to speak with us? He didn't really quite tell us. That's often with Porters. Part of the brilliance of Porter and Agora in general, the brightest leaders there will kind of give you these goalposts, but allow you to fill in the gaps and come to draw your own conclusions. So we sat through this fascinating talk from this guy Andy Fastow, and he told us the story of Enron. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Enron still, right? Even though it was 20 years ago almost. Enron was one of the top tech energy companies in the country. Actually, the sixth, I think, biggest in the world. And they were consistently rated one of the most innovative firms. 6 years running, I believe, they were named the most innovative firm in the country. Fortune magazine named them the top company to work for. This was in 2001, I think, 2001. And CFO magazine named this dude CFO of the year for a key innovation of off-balance sheet financing. So everything was going great for this guy. Everybody loved Enron until Now, I'm not trying to say this is going to happen to Agora. I'm not trying to say this is going to happen to marketers, but it could. It could if we don't pay attention. Then this is my warning. Because, the interesting thing about Fastow is that when he won this award for off-balance sheet financing, right here, he felt pretty good about himself. But the same activity that led to this meteoric rise here also led to this federal prison ID card. So isn't that funny? What a catastrophic success. We need to beware of catastrophic success in our businesses and not base success solely on performance. We need to think a little bit bigger. And this is what he told us. When he sat down with us, he said, I never intended to commit fraud. It never dawned on me. It's easy to think of as a black and white issue. But what's far more common is to find executives operating in a gray area. And boy, man, as marketers, our whole freaking life is in a gray area, isn't it? Because we're not objective. We have an agenda, and that's fine. That's the nature of marketing. That's the nature of advertising. We're here to sell. We're not here to educate. We're not here to walk the line down the middle and just give you, maybe you want this or maybe you want that. I don't know. That's not what we do. We have an agenda, but we operate in a gray area, and the danger of operating in a gray area is this. The tendency or the temptation is to go darker and darker and darker, and we rationalize it, especially if it works. So an interesting thing about Fastow is every deal he did was approved by outside auditors, internal and external attorneys, and their board of directors. He wasn't going rogue. He was not flying under the radar. And this to me, the parallel in our business is like, well, it passed legal. It passed legal, so it's okay. No, every freaking Agora ad that went on Facebook passed legal. And none of them were illegal to talk about. There was no fraud, okay? We're nowhere near, we're not like this guy, but it didn't matter, see, because it was all about the effect and the reaction of the public and the reaction of the networks. So I think, where are we going here? I think we're approaching a moment in time where it's clear we have to choose our characters, marketers, and in the business we're in. There's a vicious cycle that is the danger that we could enter here, where we continue to make big overhyped promises, which lead to huge letdowns, which lead to customers losing money, time, or pride, and they ultimately will vent their frustration to regulators or on the internet, and which will lead to this sort of pain. And I really don't want you to take it lightly. I am very upset. I'm very upset and disturbed by what's happened recently with Facebook and Google. It's a big deal. It's not a joke. The stakes are really high, and I guarantee you your competition is willing to say anything. So your decision to make is really, do you want to one-up them? Do you want to play this game of 10-minute abs, 6-minute abs, 3-minute abs, 1-minute abs? Do you really want to play that? Do you have abs at birth? I mean, what, like some idiot is going to come up with that? Or do you want to do something different? Choose your character. You can go darker and darker gray, or you can tell the truth. And here's what, and if you do go darker gray, go all the freaking way, because I don't think there's going to be any room in the middle. I think we're entering a black hat, white hat sort of a world, right? You go Nigerian, and maybe you move to Nigeria. It's probably lovely. They probably have good coffee. Or you go white hat, and you tell the truth, and you find a way to make the truth fascinating. Now, are we entering an age of persuasion? Can I will this upon the marketing world? Yeah, hell no. You know, it's because most people are too busy making money to care about this right now. They're not in the situation that we are with this Agora and Google slap. And it's scary, honestly. Even if you find it in your heart to say this is the right path, it's also very difficult. It's very difficult to give up something that works so damn well when you don't even know what the heck would replace it. What is the next move? We're still struggling to figure that out, to be honest. So, but a very smart guy, Edward R. Murrow, one of the most respected journalists in American history, had this to say, and I think he's right. Truth is the best propaganda, and lies are the worst. To be persuasive, we must be believable. To be believable, we must be credible. To be credible, we must be truthful. Another one of my favorite authors, George Orwell, said, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And ain't that the truth today? So, especially when you consider the world we're swimming in, the world we're living in, we're living through, I don't know, I don't want to go hyperbolic on you as a copywriter, but it feels to me like the worst credibility crisis we've ever faced in modern times. And this is a recent, to give you an idea of that, and the backdrop. And then this is important because like what Caleb talked about was getting in touch with what your readers feeling and thinking and what their dreams and fears are. This is not specific to one person, but it's representative in the United States of a trust or lack of trust. You better pay attention. I mean, the military has incredible trust. Small business and the police at the top, but look at the bottom. I mean, you're probably not surprised, but Congress has 11% approval, TV news 20%, criminal justice system 22%, the newspapers are in the tank. This is a really screwed up world. And I think people are heavily doubting institutions and authorities in ways that they never quite have before. But it's not a new trend. It's a long-running trend. Ever since 1973, the approval of these popular institutions is just cratered. I mean, you can see them. I'm not going to read them to you, but I mean, Congress has fallen. Approval in Congress. Can you imagine if I don't even know what life? I'm 40 right now, but I don't even know. I can't even imagine a world where that many. What's it felt like when people actually trusted Congress? It must have been. I can't even imagine it. But it's just this is the world we're in today, and we're in a world of the opposite, where it's lack of trust. We're in this bizarro world. But you know, we don't have to give in to that. We don't have to play that game. So one of the books we read as a group was this Win Your Case: How to Present, Persuade, and Prevail Every Place, Every Time by Jerry Spence, America's winningest trial lawyer. And this is what he said. He said, trust is the foundation of every sale. Once betrayed, all will be lost. All will be lost. And it sounds like trust and doing the right thing and being square with your customer all the time. I mean, I think for a long time this appeared to be sort of a quaint notion among marketers. It was a sort of a wink-wink thing, like of course we want to be trustworthy. But I'll when this campaign stops working, then I'll start. You know, it's very difficult to hop off something that's working. But you know what? Too late, done. So what do? You have a choice to make. Do you strive for connection with a customer who's desperate for illusions and find the best way to serve them and give them that fantasy? Or do you seek out and communicate honestly with a group that's starving for the truth and connect with them in a much more meaningful, deeper way? There's a lot more of these people, maybe. But if you're trying to build a long-term business, I would suggest the truth. So this is the white hat path. This is what I would suggest. This is my basic playbook. I haven't had as much time as I want to prepare this presentation, but I want to walk you through it. So what does this mean? I want to give you an idea. Instead of trying to go for the quick score, how about we build relationships with the right customers instead? This is easy money. This is the low-hanging fruit. We all know how to get it. This is much more deep and meaningful and sustainable. How about we concentrate on that for a change? When you have a bigger mission than making money, you tend to make a lot more money over time, but it's not easy. Instead of just trying to scale at all costs, what if we connect with the right audience? What if scale was just a mirage? I think it was. This whole world of where success, at least in my world with financial copywriting, the ultimate goal and success would be to produce a package that brings in 100 or 200, 300,000 people. That's fine. That looks great on paper, and that'll make you a rock star copywriter and a lot of money. But how many of those customers are actually going to stick around and buy anything? Is there a danger in going so broad with a message that resonates with too many people but not the right people? And today, in the old world, no, that was fine. It was great to do that. But in this new world of Facebook, where negative reactions do matter, there's a cost. There's a cost to going too broad. And I'm worried about that. And so this is something Porter said that really resonated with me. It may come as a shock to you, but he said, I care much more about the quality and the relationship with the customers we have than the sheer volume of people who subscribe to our work. Wow. You're not going to hear that from too many big cheese marketers like Porter. But that's what he said, and that's his vision for our business. And I just want to give you an idea. So part of what inspires me, I'm not just speaking, I'm not just trying to be all holy up here or anything like that. There are results behind it. So what I've seen in our business is that when we attract the right customer and we market to them one-to-one and we deliver the right message, we can have an incredible result. So Porter and I, and with Michael's help as well, we wrote this piece of copy called for the Alliance, which is our $25,000 a year service, which is our lifetime package for our most elite customers. And with month after month, it brings in $2 or $3 million. It's now up to this single package. It's going to go down in history as the best damn back end in Agora history. It's at 56 million and counting. All right, where it's converting at 6 to 8%, all because it's the right message at the right time, the right person, the right message, right time. And
this is in 2 years, 3 years?
It's like 3.5 years or so. But it's just in there. It's not even on their marketing schedule. It's out there in the background, churning. What does that do? What does that buy you? Without this, you're at the mercy of market forces. But now we're at the mercy of our relationships. I'd rather be in that spot. So that's what it's allowed us to do. So another thing I think marketers and copywriters in general should stop doing is stop hiding the facts. Stop. Yes, like as I mentioned, we're not in the educational space. We're not impartial at all. We have an agenda. We should make it a benevolent agenda. And by doing that, we should reveal the facts in a way that's fascinating. Don't just hide the fact. So this is an example. This is the package I wrote a year and a half or 2 years ago for Stansberry, and it ran for a long, long time. And it was all based on this idea of a massive bull market. Okay, there's nothing unique about that. There's nothing unique about that at all. But we called it the last bull market because we based it on history. We talked about a massive bubble forming in the market, and we looked back to the past and what happened in 1929. Well, if you owned stocks back then and you suffered through that brutal crash and the Great Depression, it would take you close to a few decades to get back to even. So it was a direct message to the reader and a way of telling him this could be your last bull market. This is it. This is it. But we did it in a credible way, and we didn't do it by making just a big unsubstantiated claim. We did it by mining the past and coming up with a narrative, a way to phrase this story that makes sense, that resonates, that's true. And we didn't blow any smoke. Another thing I'd just like to see come to an end is cherry picking. So cherry picking is the mark of a very junior copywriter who doesn't really care about whether he's depicting a realistic result. It's a shortcut. It can work. It's not sophisticated. It's not sustainable. The more advanced copywriters use every shred of context to their benefit. So we don't just leave parts out of the story that are inconvenient. You have to address objections and worries head on. And so here's just a quick example of how I did it this year in a crypto promotion for Crypto Tradesmith was the trading product. It wasn't recommending cryptos, but it was helping folks manage their portfolio to get in and out. So in the past, you talk about in the past year alone, all this money has been made basically. But as good as that sounds, 2018 has been a bloodbath. So I'm not hiding the truth. We're talking about how they're down. All these coins are down 50, 67%. And a lot of experts are saying, I told you so, but my research indicates they're wrong. So, and we also acknowledge the truth. A lot of crypto investors have lucked into massive fortunes. That's true. A get-rich-quick mentality has taken root, which has attracted a legion of hucksters and outright thieves to the market, and they're doing what they do best. They're separating suckers from their money. That's the truth. And it's caused a lot of smart folks to be understandably skeptical, yada, yada. I won't read the whole thing to you, but do you see how this is so basic and simple? But if I could have written this to just play up the upside, just forget about what happened this year. Last year was awesome. Just think about that. Don't worry about what happened this year. No. Just see dollar signs. That's evil, right? So we have to give them the clear picture of what's happening. Put it in context. This is how you build trust, and this is how you connect with the customer who's going to stick with you for a lifetime. And the last tip here is I don't believe in hiding behind guarantees. I actually heard one copywriter from another division of just say that the only way she was able to sleep at night was the fact that they offered a money-back guarantee. But that's a big problem to me, right? Because just because you offer money back, you can't refund a customer's time, and you cannot refund their trust. And if you make somebody feel stupid, it's very difficult to make that right through a VSL. So how about we stop doing that? And Porter's suggestion, I think, which he taught us many years ago, but I believe is an oldie but a goodie, is that every promotion should have standalone value. The ideal that we should strive for is to create an opportunity for folks to learn something and have a clear takeaway that they can use to improve their life or understand the world, even if they don't buy. And it's difficult. It's not always easy to do, depending on what product you're selling. But in a world where Facebook and Google and all the other ad networks are judging the reaction to what we produce, I think it's pretty darn important, and it's an ideal we should strive for. And just to close with the man Dave Ogilvy, I'm not the first to make these points. The man himself said the more people trust you, the more they buy from you. And I think that's true. I think we need to remember that and not take this too lightly. Thanks.